A little bit about Chile in general and Osorno is it is not what you would expect. I was kind of expecting this Latin American country, this typical Latin American country where it was warm and everything was very colorful, and you had Mexican food because I didn't know anything about Chile at the time, and I was like, oh, absolutely, everyone south of America eats Mexican food, absolutely. But I had these expectations, and it was not like that at all. Osorno and the south of Chile, the mission itself, Osorno mission, is very long. It's Osorno to Punta Arenas, or Pugon a Punta Arenas, which is a better description. And so it's very, very long, and we just called it the South. And it has an interesting history, one that's fairly different from the northern part of Chile, because just, decades ago, the southern part of Chile got a lot of German settlers in because, or what I heard was because it was a similar climate, which was cold and wet. That was the climate. So they had a lot of German settlers, which is why a lot of the buildings are made out of wood, which is very different than other South American countries. A lot of the buildings are have that Alemannic style, the Germanic style, and a lot of the customs and food as well. My favorite dessert of all time from my mission was called Kuchen, which was like a cream and fruit dessert, and it was very German. And so a lot of people actually speak German as well, and I didn't pick up any German. I should have, but so it was not what I was expecting at all. It rains a lot, like more. If you're from anywhere other than Seattle, you probably have not experienced this much rain. It rained, I swear, almost 300 days out of the year. And so that was really fun and interesting, but it did make the region very beautiful. The region of the south of Chile was called Los Lagos, which is translated into the lakes, and that's what it is. It's just a beautiful land of lakes and rivers and volcanoes and just green forests and grass, and there's more green than anything you can imagine. I got back to Utah, which is where I'm from, and I just looked at everything and I was like, oh, even the green is brown here. But it's a beautiful region, and you're so blessed to go into one of the most beautiful areas in the world. And I know that for a fact. Nobody can argue me on this. Osorno mission is the most beautiful mission in the world. Church attendance can be kind of hard. It can be really hard to get people going to church. What you always ask them is, oh, will you go to church with us this Sunday? And they'll always say, oh, si Dios quiere, which is translated to like, if God wants, like meaning like, well, we'll see, like if the wind takes me there. That's kind of that atmosphere, and we always wanted to like shake them, be like, Dios quiere, like God wants you to, I promise. But it can be kind of hard to get people to go to church. However, the people there also are just some of the kindest and most amazing people you'll see. And so even though they have their faults, sometimes I've never met anybody kinder. That's really true. So I served in 4 areas, which wasn't that much. I spent 6 months in Osorno, which was where the mission president was, or at least where his house was, and that was where like the office was. And I spent 6 months there, and it was kind of what you would expect. It's a lot like a smaller version of Provo, where you have a small city center and some suburbs, and it was smaller than Provo, or maybe it was the same size. It seems smaller because there's also no surrounding cities. It's not like you have Osorno and then like a city right next to it. You have like Osorno and then like 100 miles of like country, just like trees and fields. But it was a beautiful little place, and I absolutely loved it, and I loved the people, and I spent my summer there, my spring and summer there. It had so many plants, beautiful plants and fruit, and it all, like, the roses grew wild in the streets, and there were fruit trees that we would walk by, and there would just be like a plum tree that was just in a field near our house, and we would go and we'd, get some plums for lunch or whatever. And it was beautiful and it was wonderful and I loved it. I also served in Puerto Montt, which is close to Osorno. These are in the northern parts of the mission. And I was there in the winter, and so it rained every day. If there was a day it wasn't raining, it was cloudy, and you were still glad that it wasn't raining. They gave us, or at least they gave us, I don't know if it changes, but they gave us these rain jackets. And a lot of us were like, oh no, we already brought rain jackets because it like said in the manual. But the mission president was like, oh no, you'll need them, please take them. And so we would wear like rain jackets over rain jackets. And we had this also rain skirt, which was this hideous thing, but like it didn't matter because you just didn't want to get wet and cold. And then rain boots like up to your knees. So you're just like this weird black figure with rain boots on. Walking around, and we like still got catcalled, and I never understood why. Like, okay, I've never been uglier in my life, but that's fine. My mission companion would always tease, well, it's the light of Christ. They're just attracted to it. But yeah, so that was crazy, especially for sister missionaries. I would say that it's important to get rid of the vanity that you have, because there are going to be so many times when you are just sopping wet. You didn't put on makeup that day because you knew it was just going to get wiped off of your face from the rain. You haven't done your hair. You're cold. You haven't had a warm shower in a while, and you're wearing stinky, wet clothes because that's all you had and you didn't have time to dry your rain jackets. And it's times like those when you have to remember, well, I'm not here to look good. I'm not here to be pretty. I'm here to share the gospel. And people were genuinely happy to have us in their houses, even though we were just these wet little puppies walking in, these wet, gross little puppies walking into their house. There were so many people who were so glad to see us and have us in their lives, that you just, once you can let go of that vanity and realize that the most important thing is that you're sharing the gospel, it'll be a lot easier to survive those winters. I also served in Puerto Varas, which is also north. I stayed in a lot of the north area, and it is one of the most touristic places in the world, and especially in Chile. Like I mentioned before, it has a lot of German influence. And it just has this beautiful big lake with volcanoes and mountains behind it, and just these beautiful old churches, and it was absolutely stunning. But the house I lived in when I was in Puerto Varas, it was kind of a challenge to live there. And as a sister missionary, they try to give you good houses, and it's hit or miss with any missionary. Some are really great and some are not great. And the house I lived in had rats living in the roof, and it was so humid in the house that the roof would drip. It would leak, but not because the roof was leaking from the outside, but because it was just so humid in the house, the water would condense on the ceiling and then drip down, and it would drip down these yellow and brown drops. And there was rats living in the ceiling, and we could hear them all day, and they must have been huge. They sounded huge, and we tried to see them a couple times. We stuck our heads above the ceiling to see them, and they kept me awake at night because I slept on the top bunk, which was 3 feet away from the ceiling. And I didn't sleep at all those 6 weeks, I swear. We tried everything to get rid of these rats. We tried poison. We honestly tried a cat. We honestly tried to get a stray cat to we lured him to our house, to the outside of our yard, to see if he would maybe stick around and try and catch some rats. And that didn't work. And we tried traps, and we tried so many things, and we couldn't get rid of the rats, and they were just there the whole time. But I've also had some other really, really fun houses, really cute, wonderful houses. And And so, another thing that's important to remember is that the houses are a lot different. They're a lot smaller. And sometimes for me, that felt a little weird at times, but it was also really nice, especially because there is no heating in the houses or air conditioning, but you don't need air conditioning in a place that's so cold. But there was no heating, so they had wood-burning stoves. And every morning you would get up and chop some wood and start a fire. And that was how you heated your house. So having a small house was really nice. So practice chopping wood. That's really important. You will use it. You will not only chop your own wood, but that will be a service project for the entirety of your mission. You will chop wood all day. Then I served in Villarrica, and I was only there for a little while. But it was a cute little town, and I really enjoyed it. Very similar to the other ones I have seen. I have not served in the southern part. I did not serve in the southern part. But as far as weather goes, the southern parts are also rainy, but they're windier as well. In the city, it's a city called Punta Arenas, and it has ropes on the sidewalk, like a rail of ropes on the sidewalk, because it gets so windy that sometimes you just gotta grab on and your feet will just fly in the air, and they don't want you flying all the way away, so you just gotta hold on to the ropes. But even the entire mission is very crazy weather, and you'll be surprised that sometimes you'll get there and be like, I feel like we should go inside, and you call your supervisor or your AP or whatever, and they're like, nope, this is pretty normal, and you're like, this can't be normal. But it is crazy, so be prepared.